My name is Bogdan Radu, and I was lucky to be part of the TRUEDEM team from the part of the University of Bucharest in Romania. Obviously, I am part of this team as a researcher, but the fact that I'm Romanian, of course, influences the way I saw some of the things that we researched. I was thinking that in terms of some of the challenges that we face in relation to political trust, I don't believe that there is potentially one common issue with political trust in Europe, but rather that there are aspects of some issues that are seen and are interpreted differently in different parts of Europe. Of course, we have, for example, this anti-elitism that is one of the strategies of some political actors in many countries in Europe. But the way this anti-elitism is understood in some countries is obviously different. That difference comes from, for example, from the political culture that exists in a particular country. And then more than that, it relates to the positioning of political trust within political culture. For example, when thinking about political trust, you're thinking also how much trust should I give to a particular institution or a particular political actor. But at the same time, this has something to do with what am I actually expecting that institution or political actor to do for me? So political trust is somehow relational, and it has something to do with my expectations. And those expectations are obviously constructed through time, and then they may even have a historical perspective. There is one potentially overarching process that you can see at the level of, at the European level, that is focusing on trust, and I would not say is declining of political trust per se, because this is obviously more of a country level variable, but there is definitely a change in different types of trust and different types of actors, and that change is specific to every country. When I say that there is still an overarching sort of problem or issue with political trust across Europe, I'm referring to maybe a decline in political trust with respect to traditional politics or traditional political actors, but then concomitantly there is a sort of increase in popularity in trusting other types of subjects or political actors. For example, we also see that there is, in some countries, increasing trust in what we would call pseudo-medicine or pseudo-science. People are somehow getting attracted in some European countries to arguments which do not have scientific basis. A decline in, let's say, traditional politics, which to some extent can be understood, because there have been a lot of crises recently, from the pandemic to the war in Ukraine, but then this decline in trust, coupled with an increase in trust in things that we have not seen much of them before, like this attraction to pseudoscience, the whole discussion around disinformation, this dynamic of declining political trust, traditional political trust, and increasing trust in messages that, for example, sometimes do not have a scientific or base, this suggests some sort of maybe a paradigmatic shift. I don't have an answer to this. I don't know what will come out of it, but I think it's our duty as researchers to see how we adjust our research in terms of objectives and how we start to look at things so that we make sense of this very, very dynamic world. I always believed that research results should definitely inform policy. Well, every researcher thinks that. In terms of the research we've carried out in the TRUEDEM project, if there was one particular recommendation that I would make to policymakers, that would have to do with paying increasing attention to civic education. And when I say increasing attention to civic education, I mean both offering it a prominent role in the school curricula, which in some countries it is like that, in other countries is not particularly like that. But beyond this, the role that civic education plays, the magnitude of its importance, for example, beyond that, I think is also something having to do with the content of civic education. Civic education sometimes may be presented in a way that is either detached from reality or that it doesn't really look or include significant political values. And of course this happens because throughout Europe perhaps we don't have 100% commonality of values. But I think civic education should definitely have this component of what it means to live in a liberal democratic society. And of course, part of what it means to live in a liberal democratic society has to do with political trust. So if you will, I think civic education perhaps could go more into the direction of, I don't know, school of values, for lack of a better term. And in fact, in the TRUEDEM project, we have created educational materials that can be used for this purpose in teaching civic education across Europe.